Got a fantastic record of sorts I want to share with you from Billboard's Hot 100 of August 30th, 1980. Talk about something electric. Obviously, something not commercial enough to make it top 40 here in America, but it was huge in England, top 10 in England. Vangelis, well, Jon and Vangelis with I Hear You Now. Jon Anderson of Yes, teaming up with Vangelis, the Greek synthesizer musician. And they came up, they worked together working on several albums between 1979 through 1991. Their first collaboration together, as far as albums concerned, was Short Stories, which yielded I Could Hear You Now. Now, before that, 1974, I just found this out, when Rick Wakeman, the keyboard player of Yes, Jon Anderson was a member of Yes. He was one of the founding members of Yes, I guess the chief songwriter of Yes, and Rick Wakeman was leaving the group in 1974, the keyboard player of Yes. Vangelis was considered as a replacement. That's right, Vangelis considered to be a member of Yes. But that job fell to another guy. His name was Patrick Moraz. But Jon Anderson and Vangelis, they collaborated. They started working together in the mid 70s. Mid to late 70s, Vangelis put out several albums, and Jon Anderson did some singing on those albums. And now we come to Short Stories back in 1980. I Can Hear You Now was a huge hit in England. Was not much of anything here in the States. Went to number 58 on Billboard's Hot 100. And this is not top 40. I'll be the first to tell you this is just too. It doesn't have a hook per se. It doesn't have it. There's nothing in this record that says, "Hey, I'm moving on this. This is going to fly. This is going to be number one. This is going to be like Sailing by Christopher Cross. This is Good Times by Chic." It's not that. But if I was a programmer of a top 40 station back in 1980, and if I was given a lot of leeway, I would play this song, but not in the daytime, at night, after 10 or 11 o'clock at night, when you have more of a flexible audience, more of an eclectic audience who stay up late at night. Maybe not quite as superficial as many of the people who listen during the daytime, who just, well, let me just hear the hits. That's all I want to hear right now. I really don't want to mess with all this other stuff. Jon and Vangelis, I Hear You Now, went to number 8 in England. And gosh, the critics came down on this record. This is what one critic said about Jon Anderson. As a matter of fact, the critic from the magazine Smash Hits, he said this album was not listenable because of Jon Anderson. He blamed it on Jon Anderson of Yes, and this is his quote. I'll read a quote from him. He described the lyrics as the kind of cosmic drivel that gets hippies a bad name. And he felt that the tuneless melodies were written by just coming up with notes and pitches at random. The song does have that flavor. It does have that flavor. But you got to understand one thing. We're talking about Jon Anderson and Vangelis. Jon Anderson with his angelic voice. And Vangelis with his transcendent synthesizer. Blending together. Seamless cosmic piece of music. Not commercial, that's true. But just something that it just gives me goosebumps listening to. Jon Anderson, I believe he wrote these records, and lending his angelic voice to Yes classics like Long Distance Runaround. You and I, back in the fall of 72. One of the most transcendent records, although some would consider it pompous, but I consider it, well, probably a little bit pompous, well, both transcendent and pompous at the same time. You and I, back in the fall of 72, and Yes, and singing, Jon Anderson singing Roundabout, and Your Move. Well, anyway, song was on Billboard's Hot 100 for 6 weeks, that's it. Went to number 58, but it jumped 12 from 73 to 61. The song I Hear You Now, number 61, Billboard's Hot 100, August the 30th, 1980.